taking too long. Let's speed things up. Huh?
Hello.
There you are.
In his plight to becoming a hero, most of us know that Clark must make the heroic decision, and that's to hide his identity, so he can carry on his duty worry-free. But what does it take to hold on to dual identities and keep the ones closest to you from knowing too much? Well, this is explored in this episode of My Adventures with Superman. The episode opens up with the trio being called into Perry White's office, not because of Lois' shenanigans, but instead they are offered a long-awaited opportunity. Well, at least for Lois. And that's a shot at being reporters, as they are given the assignment to attend a gala being held by Dr. Ivo, the head of Amazotech. Any fan of DC Comics and Superman knows of this particular name. Upon meeting with Jimmy, Clark happens to notice something that might make Lois more suspicious of Superman's identity. Considering in the previous episode, she didn't get the answers that she had wanted from Superman. Her keen suspicion and need to know Superman's entire existence has been done very well thus far. But unfortunately, this isn't extended to the character the series is named after. Nevertheless, it's still quite intriguing how oblivious she is to Superman's presence for quite obvious reasons. The writers even managed to throw a nod to the audience when Lois mentions that Clark would do better if he was Superman. We as the audience are in the know already, so it's quite pleasant when writers acknowledge the existence of their audience, all while playing up to Lois and Clark's romantic chemistry. Something most know will eventually blossom into the Lois and Clark that we are familiar with. The build-up to that has been one of the stronger aspects of the series so far. As for Lois, things doesn't bode well for her at the gala. Of course, being Lois, she isn't concerned with doing the assignment that Perry sent her to do, but her drive keeps pushing her forward to get that story. Soon enough, we are introduced to Dr. Anthony Ivo, who is the excited and quite debonair showman, ready to show off his latest tech. But shortly, we learn that he isn't quite the man he appears to be. Quite the opposite. Apparently, he is broke and his technological advancement is what he's riding on to get his company back in the green. Clark isn't a fan of his as he tries to engage him in conversation. If you really want to gauge how bad someone is in DC, Clark is the guy that is able to do it the best. If he doesn't like you, that speaks volumes about your character as a whole. He is Superman after all, that farm boy who was raised by two loving parents, who was taught to do the right thing. Dr. Ivo conflicts with his upbringing and his beliefs. Besides, you get the gist of his dislike for Ivo when Clark mentions what he has done to a neighborhood in Metropolis. That instantly shows us what kind of character Clark is. Not only the role he plays in the grand scheme of things, but also his protector side coming out, whether he's aware of it or not. The strength of the episode leans on the moments Lois and Clark are interacting with each other. As usual, Jimmy is playing the third wheel. At least he is actually busy doing the assignment that Perry sent him to do. Kudos to Jimmy. As for Lois and Clark, they have a heart-to-heart moment. Let's just say things didn't go so well with Clark trying to interview Dr. Ivo. Anyway, Lois opens up to Clark about her failures after she gets a call from her father that she ignores. That being, of course, General Lane. Hopefully, we will be seeing him soon enough. But the importance of the scene is to show us that Lois not truly living up to the expectations that she had for herself, despite her always being exuberant. She is a person out there trying to chase her dreams, and the story of a lifetime is so close to her. Most people have been where Lois is in her life, not knowing if they are even good enough or if they are ever going to be successful. This is a layer of the character that isn't seen much in previous iterations. She is usually portrayed as headstrong and at the height of her success as a reporter at the Daily Planet. But here, she is represented as a person with real-life concerns. The entire scene was the highlight of the episode, and Clark comforting her was just the icing on the cake. Dr. Ivo ends up unveiling his project to those in attendance at the gala, and his reason for building the tech in the first place. His sentiment about Superman sounds quite familiar. Something another rich guy in Metropolis would say. I'm pretty sure we will see him sooner or later in the series. In true fashion for a superhero cartoon series, Dr. Ivo ends up showing his true intentions when he cracks a window to drop one of his board members from a high-rise window. Using his tech, of course, all in the attempts to lure Superman into his trap. You could see the setup coming from a mile away. Unsurprisingly, Dr. Ivo ends up becoming Parasite, but his knowledge of how his tech could counteract Superman was quite odd, considering that Clark has been in action as Superman for only 2 episodes. Yet Dr. Ivo somehow knows how to make him weak. This isn't a gripe, but more of a question of how he would have some knowledge of that. I am pretty sure this will be explored later in the series. Nevertheless, it just didn't make too much sense. I suspect there's something more behind the scenes brewing. At least Lois and Jimmy end up helping Superman so he can thwart Parasite. The writers always seem to make them useful in that aspect, taking some kind of action. As for Parasite, you can bet this won't be the last time that he appears in the series. The series is based on the comics after all.
Ah! Locked.
Yeah, it looks like it was just stuck.
Ha!
Lois, this is the same kind of stolen tech Intergang had. And Livewire.
What are those?
I have to say that this episode was very well paced and enjoyable. This was due to the scenes with Lois and Clark. By the end of the episode, you can see where things will end up going between them. There's a good chance that Jimmy will end up being a third wheel as usual.
3 best friends.
We are introduced to a villain that has a clear-cut motive that pertains to Superman himself. His need to accomplish his task had valid merit. It was a tad strange to see the character flip out the way he did, but you can see that he wasn't exactly a good person to begin with. The episode leaned more on Lois as a character than Clark himself, which is something the series hasn't quite nailed yet. Hopefully the series starts to explore Clark's journey to finding his true purpose. Just showing Superman just doing what he does just for the sake of it is a lazy attempt at character development. But he might have to put that on hold for a minute, if it's any indication from the conclusion of this episode. Let's just say that Clark needs to start emptying out his pockets if he doesn't want anyone to know his personal business. How careless, Clark. How careless.
I don't have to be better than you. I just have to stop supplying you with power.
Fight me!
No.
Coward!